Welcome to another edition of the RF Video Shoot Interview Series. Today we're joined by Eric Watts, good friend of mine.
Yes, very good friend. Riverboat gamblers.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
I don't even remember last time I seen you. It could have been that trip in ECW. It's definitely been a long time.
No, it was Charlotte when we did the video.
Okay.
That's right.
That was High Spots, I think.
No, that was High Spots, wasn't it?
Yep. Because I know Mike, you were mad at Mike that he didn't do the interview and he had somebody else.
No, okay, yeah, probably so. It might have been then New Orleans.
Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
Sure.
Well, obviously, you grew up in a wrestling family. Everybody knows who your dad was, Bill Watts, legendary promoter, Mid-South.
Yes.
What are your earliest memories of your father as a wrestler and a promoter when you were a kid?
Earliest thoughts about... Well, now that you say that, it's kind of funny because we knew he wrestled and we knew he's gone all the time. And when you're young, you kind of know that Dad wrestled, but the TV was different, right? It was once a week. It was canned. They do it 3 times. They do 3 weeks. So it wasn't like today where everything was live and you were on. So he would do probably 2 or 3 shows, and then he'd be on the road 20, 25 days a month. It was later on in life that I found out just how well known he was and the power and the impact of what he did. So from a standpoint as a child, it was more, here comes Dad, and he was a football coach or amateur wrestling coach, meaning he didn't help coach us, but he demanded that we wrestled and played football and do all the sports, because my whole dad's life was around wanting us to be the best, like, street fighters. To be honest with you, right. I remember I'm like, Dad, I'm playing tight end here. I like it, like defensive end. Why do you need me to kick and punt? Well, so when you have someone and you hit them, when you knock them down, you need to be able to kick their teeth out.
Wow.
So how does that relate in the football thing? Well, I really want you to start getting extensions, so when you take this person's head off in the streets, I'm like, okay, pump, pass, and kick. Here I come, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, but other than that, let me just say this, which you probably heard the story, but I think the coolest thing that ever happened to me, and I said this on a podcast the other night, was, so I was telling my mom, like, Mom, Dad's always gone. And, my mom was all about don't be braggadocious and telling stories and all that. And I'm like, Mom, I never do anything for show and tell. Ever do anything for show and tell. It's always let the other kids. And I'm cool with that, but I'd really like to do something big for show and tell. And I said, can Dad come to show and tell? And she's like, I don't know. He's on the road. I said, okay. I said, well, she goes, when is it? And I told her, I said, all right, next week. She goes, I'll be there, and it's going to be huge. And I said, okay. So, little Jimmy goes, well, Eric, do you have something? Yeah. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I stand up, and the glass by the door, they got the door shut, and I'm looking at my mom. She taps on the door, and she goes, I'm like, okay, well, for show and tell. And the door opens, and this huge afro ducks under the door, and she brought Andre the Giant.
Wow.
So now I'm sitting there going, yes. I mean, it gives me chill bumps now, right?
Yeah.
So Andre the Giant comes in, and I mean, dude, there was so many cool things. My dad had just bought him a pair of ostrich skin boots from a place called Drysdale's, and they brought those boots because they were too small. My dad got 23 quadruple E's, and they were too small. And matter of fact, to this day, they bought them back from my dad and put them as a display.
That's amazing.
And then he took off his ring. We did the silver dollar through his ring, the whole thing. But the coolest part was, how it's like elementary where you all go eat in the big
cafeterias?
They brought a table for him to sit on, and he actually tried to eat out of the little.
That's awesome.
So he sat there with us, and so it was over. So that's it.
Now, your dad was very well known for wanting the toughness and realism, as you just said, in the business protected, even threatening to fire guys if they ever lost a fight in public.
Yep.
How did he protect the business from you? Did he kayfabe you? And if so, like, at what age were you when he kind of smartened you up?
I'll tell you exactly. He never smartened me up. I went to my mom. I was about 14 years old, and because this is my dad's rules. He goes, here's the deal. If anyone were to ask you, and I don't know why they would, if wrestling is real or fake, friend or enemy, it doesn't matter, beat them bloody. And so for a lot of the time when kids would like snicker or say something, they never came out and said it, but I actually had conversations with my brother. I'm like, I'm scared that someone's going to ask us. Because my dad's presence was this: I don't care if you were my best friend. If you had asked, it might have hurt my feelings. I would have done whatever I can to beat your brains out, because that's what it was. So I remember going to my mom and asking my mom, I think I was about 14, Mom, I got to ask you a question. And she's like, what? I said, is wrestling fake? And she's like, why would you ask? Did one of your friends ask? And I go, no. And she goes, yes, but don't ever tell your dad I said so.
Wow.
That was the one and only time I've ever heard that it was fake. Is it? Hold on, can I ask you?
Sure.
Is it fake?
What's that?
Is it fake?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. You
I don't
scared
want you
me
to
for
beat my
a
ass
second.
out.
Well, no, I know my mom's a liar now.
The bumping's definitely not fake, that's for sure.
Hello.
But the ring rat stories could be.
Yes,
No.
yes.
You mentioned your brother a little bit earlier.
Yes.
What was your brother's role in Mid-South, Joel?
Okay, so Joel was an amazing dude because Joel, I have Micah, about Micah as well. So, so here's these two guys, me and Micah were these standout athletes. And we had an older brother. And our older brother loved sports. I was always getting hurt. Breaking stuff. And he was highly intelligent. And so he had all these offers. He was going to go to Harvard, and he's like, no, I'm going to go to school where Dad went to school, the University of Oklahoma. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? And he's like, cause. And so he goes up there, and he's when I say this, his IQ is just off the charts, right? One of his classes his senior year, he taught chemistry. He taught as a teacher chemistry. So he went up there, and so my brother just partied his brains out. And my dad was like, what are you doing? You went to Oklahoma. You're not there for sports. It's boring to you. And he's like, yeah. He goes, well, what do you like? He goes, I like video work. My dad's like, well, what if I put some money into this? I'll send you to a convention. I want you to pick out all the video stuff, and I want you to learn it, and I want you to start producing my show. And my brother's like, sure. And that's what he did. He went to one convention. My dad sent him to Vern Gagne and a few other people to talk about how things went. And before you knew it, I swear to goodness, my dad had an office in the little town of Bixby. And all of a sudden it's soundproofed, and there is a gajillion dollars worth of video stuff. And there's Jim Ross and my dad. And the funny thing about it is the garage where Power Pro Wrestling was.
Your dad when I went to your dad's house, he showed me the
you
garage.
did?
Yes.
So up in that little cubby so all of this magnificent footage and film came from that, and then Joel. And then if you think about it, Joel, being younger, was huge into MTV and music. So when you think about Mid-South, they were kind of cutting edge of the videos. And
Memphis as well.
Well, Memphis as well.
Right.
But the connections.
Yeah.
Like for Joel to bring ZZ Top to do Eliminator with Fantastics.
I was just going to say, yep.
That's pretty easy. I remember the Gap Band showed up, and they were begging Joel to do it. And a matter of fact, my dad let me go with the Gap Band to LA for New Year's because they did the Drop the Bomb on Me.
Right.
And they were, this would be a great wrestling song. This would be a great wrestling song. So we actually had people that came and did that. And a matter of fact, when my mom was selling the tapes, that was the one thing that we never had to worry about because we...
you own the music.
ZZ Top signed a deal where we could use the music.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who are some of the guys that you liked growing up watching in the business in Mid-South that you idolized?
I liked, first things first, I know this sounds really strange, but my dad was my favorite. Literally my favorite. And I think it was because I watched more shows and less TV. Because if it was the summer and we were in a football camper, we were on the road with my father.
Okay.
So to watch him and what he could do. But all the burly, the Buzz Sawyers, and I remember as a kid, there was people that scared the hell out of me. Kabuki. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to do something wrong. But you can go to Buzz, and it wasn't like a favorite. We were a family. So I remember when Jake Roberts came up to me, and I'm looking at this guy going, this guy's skinny, and my dad has a whole bunch of real animals, right? And I remember he came up to me, and I knew him as Grizz's son. And he was like, hey man, I'm going to do this new thing tonight. I'm like, okay, what? He goes, I'm going to call it the DDT. And I go, okay, why the DDT? And he starts telling me, the poison, and so he goes out and he does it. And I go, okay. First time you see it, it was just okay.
Right.
But he goes, no, here's the deal. See, I can pull that off from anywhere. I'm like, okay. So it takes 3 weeks for the tour to come back around. So the next time I come in, he goes, watch this. The guy, it looks like this guy's going to get me. I'm going to duck. I'm going to come around. I'm going to DDT him out of nowhere. And I'm like, okay. The fans started to do it. He goes, 3 weeks goes around. He goes, guess what? What do you think about this, Eric? Oh, well, everyone called me Slick Slim because Junkyard Dog named me Slick Slim somehow. He's like, hey, Slick, I'm going to start signaling it. DDT. He goes, here's the deal. Your father's probably going to fire me. I go, well, why? He goes, because that's kind of crazy that I would be signaling the crowd. I should be interested in the match, but I'm going to do it. And so the first time he did it, nothing they didn't know, but when he did the DDT, man, as we're doing this thing, within 3 or 4 months, he's sitting there doing it and the fans are going crazy. The whole reason he did it was to set himself up. He said, here's the deal. Now they think I'm going to do it every time. It's perfect when I do it to turn around and I get crushed. So now you got to think about it. I'm 13, 14, 15 years old. So was there favorite wrestlers? No, they were just all family. And I got to say, having a mom like I had was so intense because that was our life. So it wasn't like going for entertainment. This was our livelihood. If we went and the place was half full, we were in trouble. If it's full, we're doing okay. And it's every day, every night of the week.
At what age did you want to get into the business?
Well, okay, not to have a story about every story. I wanted to be in there immediately just like anyone else, but then having my mom was very stern in things. So we have the Von Erichs around us all the time. You got Dusty around us all the time. A Blackjack Mulligan, not as much, but around.
Right.
But the Von Erichs the most. So my mom is watching the Von Erich family and watching us, and both parents being known as really rough and really tough. I was going to say
there's such a parallel between Fritz and Bill.
And let me tell you what, like my little brother, he set records at discus and shot put.
Wow.
Well, let me tell you what was amazing. Kerry was the one that my dad would fly Kerry in to teach my brother the discus and shot put. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, and there was a few times, even as a little kid, Kerry was so drunk, we're like, oh man, watch this. He's going to throw it through the house window and Dad's going to kill him.
Perfect.
You know? But when he got down and did it, so we had a lot of parallel. But here was the deal. My mother had told me, which Joel was the exception because he reffed and he did color commentary and production. So we didn't count that as working. My mother asked my father, and he agreed. You will not allow Eric or Micah into the business before they get their college degree. Because my dad went to University of Oklahoma, then he played for the Oilers and then Minnesota Vikings, but he didn't graduate from Oklahoma. My mom never went to college, so she wanted us. So it was a rule that I could not touch, get in the ring, wrestle until I graduated. So the story goes full. So I still set up the rings, I still sold the merch, I still did the lights, I did security. So that's what I think people miss is when I went, I had gone down just to get in the ring because I'd graduated. People don't know this. I'm still looking at the football draft. I go down. I was only in the ring for 23 days because I was in between the last break and summer. I was going back. I only had three courses to finish my master's degree.
Right.
Dusty then said, hey, on your way back, son, why don't you stop by Franklin, Tennessee and wrestle? I go, no way. I go, I can't. I mean, I've been 23 days. I can't. I don't know how to put. No, we'll send Sarge up. You'll do it. I go, I don't even know what I'm wearing. Do you have your football pants? Cut them off. So he did all the stuff. Franklin, then he asked me to do Chattanooga. And I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. I'll see you guys in 3 months when I'm done. I don't think I'm gonna play football. I want to wrestle. By that time, I knew I wanted to wrestle. And I remember Grizz pulled me aside. He goes, hey, Dusty's on the phone. And I go, okay.
What year is this?
Oh, well, this is 92.
Okay.
92.
Yep.
And he goes, Dusty's on the phone. I said, okay. And he's on. Hey, baby, what you doing? I said, nothing. And he goes, did you have fun? I said, Dusty, I had no idea what I was doing, but it was the funnest thing I've ever done in my life. He goes, and I remember this to this day. He goes, worst thing ever happened to me. I said, what, sir? He goes, I got in the ring one day. I go, what do you mean? He goes, it's the greatest feeling in the world. I go, why is it the worst? He goes, because you'll never, ever be able to not be in the middle of the ring again. And I said, you know what? I'll see you in 3 months. I'm not going to football. I want to come wrestle. And I said, hopefully I'll go to Japan or somewhere, or Mexico somewhere, if you can pull me some strings. He goes, okay, I got something else I need to tell you. I go, what? And he goes, you need to be back in Atlanta tomorrow night because you need to sign this contract I got for you. Your first match is on Saturday Night Live tomorrow. I go, excuse me? And and there's a lot of that story that's hilarious. So
we'll talk about that coming up too.
Yeah.
Jim Ross, you mentioned Jim Ross earlier in the interview. What are your memories of Jim Ross from that time period early on as a kid?
Well, so Jim that I remember is the guy that was loved sports, and he did a lot of reffing, football, basketball,
right?
And really, that's kind of how him and my dad, they kicked it off. So Jim, the Jim you know today, that is probably the most incredible announcer of all times, other than, like I did love Gordon Soley, and I did love my dad announcing too, but Jim is just Jim. Jim loved wrestling as much or more than any athlete, and he took it serious. But my dad was known for treating color commentary really rough. They are to be heard, not seen. They're never to put each other over. I mean, my dad said the only thing you should be doing is finding out backgrounds about them. Make up a story about their amateur wrestling or amateur football, or they beat their sister. Do something, find something, and shut up. So that's how he taught. And so sometimes it was brutal to go to the office because everyone loved Jim, and they would just be in war meetings. And my brother too. My dad would be taking both their heads off. But to watch the maturity of their relationship is incredible. And Jim to me is just by far the best.
Oh, without a doubt.
The best.
As far as when you actually started training, was it your father that actually trained you to wrestle?
No.
Okay.
No. He had nothing to do with it. I went down. I had called my dad,
right,
and said, "Hey, if I went to Atlanta,
power plant,
is there someone I could go? I want to feel what it's like to be in the ring." And he's like, "You do?" I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I do." He goes, "But football." I go, "No, I would like to." He goes, "I'll call one of my buddies, Jody Hamilton." So this was, I don't even think it was the power plant. It should have been called the shithole. Right. It was down 1941. There was no heat and air in it. And there was a mean gremlin there named Buddy Lee Parker.
Yep.
Right? And so they put me in the ring. I remember being there. It was very difficult, very hard. I would show up there about 8 a.m. We'd get out about 6 p.m. or 7. He'd let me go rinse off, then Buddy would take me to work out. And then the coolest things were Hiro Matsuda came by one time, and we didn't do one single thing before we'd already done like 2,000 squats. Graham shows up, Gagne and Graham show up, which almost ended my career because I guess they thought they'd come rib me. And I remember Mike Graham's there and Gagne's there, and Gagne said, "Okay, Eric, I know you do all these acrobatic stuff, springboards and stuff like that. Go to the top. All wrestlers have to do this, and stand up at the top rope." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Now go grab the metal pole." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Now push as far as you can back and see if you can go all the way across the ring." And I said, "Okay." And I did it. But I was an amateur wrestler, so when I went like that, I arched. And I landed on my head. Man, spots. And all I heard was Graham going, "We're dead. We're dead. You just killed Bill's son. He's dead. You idiot. He's going to kill us." And then the rib was on them. They nursed me back. But so that was it. A matter of fact, once I got my deal at WCW, my dad would call me occasionally and say, "Hey, why don't you film your stuff and bring it to me, and let's go over it." And so I'd meet him in his hotel room, and we go over it. I swear to goodness, I was never there for less than 3 hours, and we never got past the lockup ever.
Wow.
In the first 2 months. Most of the time, he would be so mad, he would cuss me and get rid of me and say, "Get the hell out of here." The one funny story, Mark Canterbury. So this is about 3 or 4 months in. Sarge couldn't go. My dad pulls Mark Canterbury and says, "Hey, I want you to go on this Texas tour." So he goes on the Texas tour. So when I come back from the Texas tour, I'm willing to see my dad, and I put in the tape. My dad's watching it, and he's sitting there going, okay. And I'm like, that's not bad. That's not bad. Hey, good movement. I'm like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. And he goes, wow, hold on, stop the tape. I go, yeah. And he goes, "Who in the hell was that?" I go, "What?" I said, no, who are you wrestling? I said, Mark Canterbury. He goes, damn, he's good. Get the hell out. You're the shits. And then he called up whoever and said, get this kid more time. Mark Canterbury, God's my witness. I saw Mark Canterbury, 15 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And he came up to me and he goes, he's so friendly, right? He comes up, he goes, I love you, Watts. I go, man, I love you too. He goes, let me show you something. He pulls out his wallet. He's got a picture of me. He carries. And I go, why are you carrying that? He goes, without you sucking that bad, your dad, you made me look good, So,
as far as learning the business, what was the hardest aspect of the business to wrap your head around? Would it be the psychology or the physicality?
Okay, unfair question because both. Football, brutal. Amateur wrestling, brutal. But in football, right, you play Ohio State, you play Florida State, you have literally 6-7 days of just trainers and massage therapy and everything, the right foods and all that. Here, you get hurt, and the next day, you got to wrestle again and wrestle again and wrestle again. So the physicality was off the chain like nothing I'd ever seen. The psychology part of it was rough because where most people go, into different schools and different places and learn from different people, very slowly over a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years. Remember what I said? Before my first wrestling show, I had been in the ring 23 times. Then those 25. So yes, I was with Buddy Lee Parker, and yes, he's awesome, and yes, I had 6 or 7 or 8 hours. How are you going to learn the psychology other than what you watched? And just because you watched it and you knew what you liked, it took quite some time to try to know how to make that happen. But I will say this, being blessed as far as the business, many of the people that were raised in the business take care of those people. So I never met Bret Hart. And I remember Bret Hart coming into me and speaking to me and saying, I'm here for you. And then he would meet me early places. Harley Race would show at every town that he was on with Vader. I had to show up at the town at 10 or 11 o'clock. Vader would cuss me, saying, I hate you, I don't like you, but Harley wants me to come to this town early. I had the same thing when I went to Germany. Franz Schumann and those guys that didn't even know me at all, but these they would meet me every morning, every day. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat would ask me to go to the town every time I was around early. That is unfair for everyone else. But minus that, I would have not learned anything.
I was going to ask you, were you well received in the locker room? Did anyone stand out as being especially welcoming to you, or did they give you the cold shoulder because you're dad?
Well, we had a whole bunch of really green guys with a lot of heat. So that helped at the beginning. So, names like Johnny Bad, Van Hammer, Buff Bagwell. They had so much heat just for the way they acted and talked and spoke that did help. I will say this, Dustin, when I first showed up, he came and gave me a hug. Now, I knew Dustin, and I'm like, hey, buddy, and you could tell it was like too much of a hug. I'm like, what's up? He goes, thank God you're here. I go, why? He goes, oh, my God. They were busting on me and ribbing me all the time. Now it's you, rookie. And so standout wise, I did have that crew of people that were deer in headlights. All of us were deer in headlights. The first two people, though, from a non-deer in headlights stance that took to me was Kevin Nash, but Dallas Page. And that's why I think to this day, me and Dallas are great friends. Always treated me up. Steve Austin, and another one that really went out of his way to dog me to death in the locker room, but then privately was always working with me is Brian Pillman.
Wow.
So those guys. The most hate I had probably for the longest time was Scott Steiner and Rick Rude.
Well, Scotty didn't like your dad, so
hated my dad.
Yeah.
And then Rick Rude. But then me and Rick ended up getting into it in a locker room, and which was awesome because then I got the respect of a lot of the guys and him, which was awesome. And then me and Rick really got along well. But man, did he hate me! But
what was the heat over with you and Rick?
I think the majority of my heat with everyone was whether they hated my dad or didn't hate my dad. Period. Because, dude, I was only in there for a short period of time, and I knew I knew about being respectful. So I didn't come in with attitude or disrespect or anything like that. So I think the majority of it was, who's this kid with the whole silver spoon thing.
Compare Bill Watts the father to Bill Watts the boss, and how different were they, or were they the same?
Same.
They same?
Yeah. My dad, I love him to death, and I think we've got a good relationship. But my dad is just a tough, brutal dude. It's just him. He loves, but everything you hear about him, it's his way or the highway, and But you hear the same thing. I hear the same thing about the Stu Harts and Von Erichs and a few others. My dad is just he demands attention and respect and authority the whole time. So, father, dad, same thing.
Is it true that you once put a copy of your contract in the locker room to kill the rumors you were making a ton of money?
My dad did.
Okay.
Did not. My dad got so sick of it because of the certain people, the Pillmans, those guys that were there. Because I think back when I started, there was the 1, 2, 3 year deal, and they all basically had the same increments, and everyone was looking for them. And so the problem, there was two things of heat as far as that's concerned. When I came to WCW, I was driving a 944 turbo
right.
Porsche, a red one, and but it was 5 years old. So the rumor is that I made this amazing amount of money in a contract, and my signing bonus at WCW was a 944 Porsche. And I used to laugh and say, well, let me ask you something. I signed my contract in 1992. What Fortune 500 company or anyone else gives you a signing bonus as a 1987 car? I mean, that doesn't make sense. Oh my gosh, we got this hot recruit. Let's buy him a car from 5 years ago. So I think my dad got ticked off because the rumors were going into negotiations. So I think and so he went and posted it at Center Stage one day, and it was embarrassing to see because my contract was completely different from anyone else's. My first year, my guaranteed was $67,000, and I got a bonus. I think I got a $300 bonus per night for every time I wrestled over 23 matches a month. So if I wrestled 25, I'd get a $600 bonus. So that's how mine worked.
Now, early on in your career, you received a pretty sizable push and undefeated streak that some criticized because you were just starting out in the business, and it was a bit of nepotism.
Yep.
Talk about your experience during that time and whether you thought the criticism was warranted then, or whether years later you feel any differently.
Okay, so son of Cowboy Bill Watts, what I felt should happen and not happen had nothing to do with it. So it was kind of like, you're doing this. I went to my dad one time. I remember going to him and say, Dad, look, the way it's turning out, the fans, the smart marks are turning. The boys, of course, are turning. Why don't you just let me heel?
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Please turn me into heel. And my dad said, the day that I want your advice on booking is the day that I'll quit because you don't know shit about the business I do, blah, 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 shut up. I did hear later on, though, that, Dusty pulled me aside and said that, your push was not your dad's idea. Your push was more of Dusty Rhodes' idea. Now, where those went off the rail, not rail, is that true? Not was Dusty, because Dusty was a great friend of my father. I don't know. I will say this though, I do remember a phone call that I made one time to someone I knew in New York, and it was about this dude named The Rock. And I don't know if you remember this, but there's some people I knew up there, Jim Ross's and stuff like that.
Right.
And I was watching this kid being pushed down the throats of people. And third generation, right? And the fans were not having it. And I did say to a particular person, oh my God, don't let what happened to me happen. You need to turn this guy heel, get him abused for a while, and see what happens. Now, I don't know if that meant anything. I don't know if that went into any decisions. But man, when I started to see that happen, I was so happy for him. Now, The Rock is just so dang talented and so awesome. I'm sure he would have been great no matter what. But I can tell you what, That was one of the greatest moves ever. I wish the same move would have happened to me, but you know what? At the same time, there was other great moves, like when Paulie brought me into ECW. Jesus Christ, that goes down, even though I was there for a very short time because Ted DiBiase was trying to open up the different place, and I was their champion already and all this. Wow. And the chemistry between me and Paulie, because Paulie hated my dad but loved my dad.
Yep.
But he talked to me about it. It's like, man, I hate your dad, and your dad really hates me. And I would go, well, yeah, if you'd quit forging your car rental receipts, and he's like, do you know about that? I go, everyone knows about it. And, but when he brought me in, and it was so brilliant. And I remember when he brought me in, the funny thing was it kind of screwed things up because this is what Paulie told me. He's like, I had this idea, but now every one of my main event guys, from Sandman to Raven to blah, want you. And so then there was this idea of, so who are we going to put him against?
Right.
Right?
Because you were supposed to do something with Tommy. Tommy was telling me yesterday.
That's the guy. I was coming in for Tommy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you know who took me to the ECW event? It was actually center stage. It was Dusty Rhodes, because I was helping training some people and doing stuff for him. He goes, hey, let's go see Paul Lee. I said, oh, I love Paul Lee. And then he's like, well, let's go see him. And then we went there, and Paul Lee saw me in the back. And that night that I was there, he was like, hey, Watts, what you doing? I'm like, and like we were friends, but not that great friends. He goes, damn, you look big. I go, well, I'm 6'6". He goes, yeah, but that's a great shirt. And he goes, hey, do you mind just walking out and beating the crap out of Dreamer? I go, excuse me? He goes, oh, just ratchet him with the chair. He'll split him open. I swear to goodness, this was like 5 minutes later, I'm in the ring. Bam! He's like, hey, would you ever like to wrestle? For us, and start taking off. So it was kind of crazy. And then the TNA. I mean, Vince Russo. When Vince Russo and I didn't know each other, Vince Russo had moved to Atlanta. Vince Russo one time wanted to sit me down, and he wanted to tell me the story about how my dad made him. And so the story goes, I don't know if you heard it, but so my dad comes in at WWE, and he's the man, and
right.
my dad's like wreaking havoc, shut up, you're out, shut up. And so one day my dad said he was sitting outside getting ready to go in, and the guy from the magazine, I think that's what Russo was doing, and he was talking to him. And my dad, and this is Russo, my dad did tell me the story. And Russo said he was sitting there, and my dad's like, really? So what's your idea about this? How do you feel about this guy? Oh, he's the shit, or he's great. Or he's like, and my dad's like, hold on just a second. And he goes in, about 5 minutes later, the board meeting's going on, he goes, come in. He goes, and Russo said, he goes, basically, let me introduce you. This guy's from the magazine, and he knows more than any of you idiots. Blah, 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 blah. And he started bringing him in the booking. Fast forward, so me and Russo wanted to meet me and just say, hey, I knew you wrestled. I get a call from him, and he goes, we need someone for Jeff. I go, I'm not really wrestling right now. And he goes, I'm telling you to be perfect for Jeff. This isn't me asking, this is Jeff asking. I go up and see TNA. Half the guys I'd never seen. I mean, AJ Styles and Frankie, all these little guys.
Right.
The best wrestling I'd seen in forever. It was like a cult. I'm watching, I said, I want to be a part of it. But it was Vince, when I went in, Jeff and I faced off, but we didn't get to the match. And before I know it, I have heat with Jeff. And I asked Vince, I said, what's the heat? And he goes, Jeff didn't know you're that tall. I go, I was at WWE, I was 6'6" then, I'm 6'6" now, what do you mean? He goes, well, he doesn't think it's gonna mesh. And so he tried to phase me out. Well, when he tried to phase me out, Vince says, oh, this is perfect. I know you can talk, let's get you on the mic. And dude, after that, and I remember because Vince is like, oh my God, Jeff is just one of my best friends, but he's really pissed off right now. He's like, why? He goes, because they're chanting your name. And he's like, who are they chanting? And he goes, I think that's Eric Watts. And he was playing both sides. He goes, they would never chant Eric Watts. And they had me on the one show that didn't show, not the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It took about a month. And before you know it, Jeff said, he's got to be back on the pay-per-view. And then I'm taking off like this. And then instead of me and Jeff tags with me. But it was people like, what I'm trying to say is, that was the real Eric Watts. That was the character. It was not, hey, wear your letter jacket. Hey, say you're the All-American kid. Hey, say this, hey, say that. Look, the Steiners have letter jackets. Why do I need a letter jacket? Am I an All-American kid? Kinda, but not really. I am that guy that has a lot of cocky, arrogant stuff to say about a lot of people, and I feel like I'm pretty tough. And that is perfect for a heel. you know?
I want to backtrack a little bit because I'm going to ask you about ECW and TNA and all that stuff. Going back to when your dad was the owner of Mid-South and UWF, did you see the writing on the wall when the company was going to be sold to Crockett?
Yeah, it had nothing to do with wrestling.
Of course, right.
It was the oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a headquarters in Dallas, New Orleans, Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've got land and property everywhere. And I mean, just in one day, the oil thing hit. And it wasn't just all our investments, because most of all ours was paid for. You know, and my dad, I'll say one thing about my dad and mom. All the kids were very heavy into what we were doing as an empire, right? But I remember the day my dad came in, because he would have meetings with the family. And my dad said, look, you know, I just want to let you guys know right now, whether I wrestle one arena or no arenas, we have to, on average, to break even, do $30,000 a day. He said, so that's where we're at, $30,000 a day. He said, so if I take Sunday off, we lose $30,000, right? I remember him saying that. And as a kid, trying to put your head around that is kind of wild, you know? But it's still okay when you're doing 40, 50, 60, 70, sometimes 100 in some of these buildings. It got really real, though, when all of a sudden all the buildings went to 8 and 10, and he was putting on incredible shows with incredible talent.
Because some of the talent went to WWE a little bit, like the
Well, no, it was the people couldn't pay. They were losing all their jobs.
Okay.
So you're talking about Texas and Louisiana, which their shores are full of oil rigs. Oklahoma, on our land, we had 2 oil pumps on our land. People couldn't pay. So it didn't kill like the Charlottes and the New Yorks and the Minnesotas and the things. It sucked everything out of there, and that was not going to be outdone. That was just like when the housing crash happened. We've had to wait for all that just to go away, right? We had to get so many years away from it.
Right.
That was the same thing with oil. If my dad even said, he goes, I've got enough cash that I can hold out for 5, 6, 7 years. My point is, I've got a whole bunch of cash. F it, we'll diverse. Plus, at the time too, it was kind of weird. My dad also became very religious. And Cowboy Bill Watts, was struggling with, is he wrong for promoting violence? And that was really weird as a kid to watch, because nothing.
His company was all based on violence. Yeah.
And he was violent, right? You know, I'm like, oh, really? Yeah.
Now,
that's it.
Jim Ross wrote in his book that Bill didn't get everything that he was promised financially from the sale. Any insight into that? From the Crockett's?
Crockett?
The Crockett sale?
Oh, yeah, Crockett. Yeah, he was a piece of shit. Yeah, he made a down payment and a very sizable down payment, and then choked on the rest.
Your dad never sued or anything, or?
Yeah, he blamed it on. As a matter of fact, I think Crockett blamed it on Dusty. You know, because at that time, that was when they were first starting to get the Learjets occasionally and all this. And my dad's the one, if you think about it, my dad was building Crockett's Federation when my dad broke out with the Crockett Cup. I mean, what owner of a territory is that confident in what he does that he brings another one in to help promote it? Because I got pictures on my Facebook. I'll send you one from 1963 in Vegas, sitting down with the NWA convention. You know, of all the people, and that was the one thing with my dad. Whether he liked you or didn't like you, if you go back to, I think it was 14 or 15 years old, my dad called me in the office one day and said, hey, would you sign over the company to a buddy of mine? He's not doing too good. And I go, okay. Because I think my dad had me on paper as the president of Georgia Championship Wrestling. So I signed it over to Ole Anderson.
That's huge.
Well, it's just crazy stuff, right?
I never knew that.
But my dad also, the Minnesota and Tampa's. I remember we were in Oklahoma, we're doing great. And my dad said, no, I got to go help my mentor out. And he pulled all of us out of school, stuck us in like this nun school of Catholics that were trying to learn Spanish in Tampa, you know, pull us out and said, no, I'm gonna go start booking for him. I'll be his top talent. I can run both territories. My dad was the type of person that he wanted all the territories to be doing good.
Because, yeah, they all do good, yeah.
They all do good.
Exactly.
And how else are we going to teach our talent? I mean, my dad, he used to write on the map. He was like, look, I could take, let me give you a prime example. Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels called me, I don't know, it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't know if I told you the story. He's like, hey, Eric, he goes, do you have some old footage of me at Mid-South? And I'm like, yeah, I think we have some footage of you. And he goes, could you put like a collage of my matches together and send it to me? He goes, I want my kids to see that I didn't start out as the Heartbreak Kid. And I said, okay, well, I've watched a lot of ours, and I was like, that's not going to be a problem. A matter of fact, I could probably get you about 6 matches. They'll last maybe 9 minutes, and I'll send them to you. And I did. And I got a call back going, could you find anything better? I'm like, dude, do you not remember when you came? But Shawn's the one that told me. He went to my dad, right? And my dad saw him as an incredible athlete. His bumps and his moves were more crisp than anyone. He was way too small, but he was an athlete. My dad used him as a prime example. He goes, Eric, I took this athlete. Then I call my friend over here and say, hey, can you take him for 6 months a year? And then my dad's still watching you, and then he's calling Vern, and he's calling Graham, and he's calling Von Erichs, and he's calling, whoever in Seattle, and he's sending them around, all around. And then I would see him 3 or 4 years later, and my dad would go, hey, remember this guy? I go, kind of. That's him now. Then I would be gone, another 3 years, but he's main eventing. And that was so important to our business. And that's why the relationships, I remember when Baba would fly in for the meetings to meet my dad.
Right.
And I asked my mom, I go, Mom, do they like us? The way my dad talked to them was, I've never seen it. And my dad's like, it's the culture. You got to understand. You got to talk to them like shit. I'm like, what? And he goes, oh, they love us. And I go, okay. But he was the one mending the relationship between here and Japan. He did stuff in Germany. He did stuff in Mexico. If you think about it, my father, from what I've watched, was the first to truly start bringing in the Mexican wrestlers. I mean, we had the Guerreros before the Guerreros were anything,
yeah.
And everyone thinks, oh, it's the Texas. No, it was my dad was bringing in all that talent, So I was watching that for years.
Going back to Dusty Rhodes, you just mentioned Dusty a little bit. Mm-hmm. Dusty was booking under your dad during that time period. How influential was Dusty on your career, and what sort of insights and knowledge did he ever pass on to you? Okay,
so Dusty is the booker at Mid-South, or Dusty is the booker at WCW?
WCW.
Okay, so Dusty the booker at WCW. Because I had experience as Dusty Rhodes the booker at Mid-South.
Right.
And so my dad loved Dusty, right? Dusty and him they had a relationship, and it was a wild one. Cuss each other, mad, tear down the house, have differences, but loved each other. And I'll tell you something really funny. So Dusty, Texas fan, Dad, Oklahoma, right? Booner, Sooners, all this other stuff. So I remember, and don't quote me on this, but I think my dad bet him $1,000 on the game. And so we were there, and it's Texas Stadium, and then here comes Dusty. Cowboy, you fat son of a, I want my $1,000, and he's cussing him in the stands. And he's like, Dusty, you know what? I love you, and that's kind of funny, but you try to embarrass me, I'm gonna knock you out. Right. and you see it going, and so my dad was mad about it. So it was hilarious though, because the next day when we were back in Bixby, my dad goes, hey, I need you to go to the president of the bank. He's got a special order for me. I said, what is it? He goes, take the 4x4. I go, what? He goes, I got to get Dusty's $1,000. I go, what do you mean? My dad had ordered $1,000 in pennies.
That's awesome.
And my dad delivered it. So Dusty the booker, so what my dad said, and this is even, my dad used to say this when we were 10 years old. He said, Dusty Rhodes is absolutely one of the most talented bookers of all times, but he has to be managed. His 10th step is perfect. His 11th, 12th, 13th, no one gets. And so if you let him run, this angle's going to go, and then all of a sudden it's too much. Now this is all respect going. Right. So when I got to WCW and watched him, which my dad loved him around, I got to watch just what he was talking about. And let me give you a prime example. Arn Anderson did one of the coolest things ever. When I'm wrestling Arn didn't want to, who would want to be in the position to have to work me not knowing what the call was going to be? Okay, and I had a few instances. One with Stone Cold, one with Arn, one with Rick Rude, and a few others. I mean, pivotal instances. Arn wasn't that guy. He absorbed it. He just goes, okay, I'm gonna do this. So we're working an angle, and we're working the angle, and Arn's going to beat me, of course, in this angle, but it was going to be a maturity situation, right? Arn tweaks his knee, goes to Dusty and says, I'm going to need an operation on my knee. I'm going to be out for a little bit. And Dusty goes, okay, well, what do you want to do? And he goes, I want to build Eric Watts like never before. And Dusty's like, what do you mean? He goes, I want him to tear my knee and cause me to have surgery. And Dusty goes, that's brilliant. Now, you take a good man, that why would he do this for me? But I for whatever reasons, I hope it's because he knew I honored, respect the sport, and was doing my best and all that. Give it to this genius, and they came up with the parking lot incident. You remember before 100%. The pay-per-view. And just so you know, I was talking about this on a podcast the other night. Sometime we can talk about this later. The two cops that were supposed to be were laughing, telling jokes with Dusty at the Pizza Hut. Forgot their cue. Dusty forgot to tell the owner of the gas station that we're going to do it. So if you go back and watch the video, and I haven't seen it in 15 years, the owner was calling the cops saying, stop, stop, stop. Stop, don't hit him anymore. The little girl knew what was going on, but he didn't. And if you look, I'm looking because I thought I might have to get up and punch this guy because I didn't know whether he was going to attack me.
Yeah.
He's on the police come. When they pull me up, I'm like, God, these guys are pretty stiff. And I had my Fiesta Bowl ring from beating Alabama on, right?
Right.
And it was cold. I feel it going. They cuffed me so hard, when they run me into the car, they split my ear open. And then the cars aren't big anyway, and they push me in. Now I'm being dog cussed by two cops. We're going down the road. I'm like, you guys are pretty good, man. And they're like, shut up. I'm like, man, my ear's bleeding. They go, good. I'm like, what? And all of a sudden on the thing, they go, officer, blah, 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 blah. You need to pull over, please, sir. And then they get on dispatch. And dispatch goes, we've got a problem here. The superintendent needs to speak to you. And he goes, hey, take him back. And I think the police that...
That's amazing.
I think the police actually, the police that... They didn't tell the superintendent. Not superintendent, but the superior officer. And they got in trouble. So so that kind of made the whole thing real. That's a Dusty Rhodes production by an Arn Anderson gift. And then he said, Arn always had the best ways of just ripping you and being nice. Oh, he goes, don't worry about it, puppy. He goes, because I'm going to beat the living shit out of you when I get back. And he did. And it was great. And you know what better thing could ever happen? I get put into a double angle with one of the greatest workers ever.
You mentioned earlier about your fight with Rick Rude. Did that have something to do with Rick Rude talking about beating up Kurt Hennig, and then that's how you guys got into it?
How'd you know that?
I know everything. All right.
You do know everything. Yeah, that was bad timing on several situations. First of all, at the time, there's Sting. And Sting I had known since I was 14 years old. And believe it or not, when you say did anyone stand out? Remember, we've got Road Warriors and you know the talent that's come through.
Oh, yeah.
When Sting came through, two people I remember, or three people I remember coming through, and it was both nights in which I had a whole bunch of friends over, because my dad occasionally, when he would bring in new talent, he'd take them out, and then he'd have them come out to our house, you know, and show them around. They'd spend the night, they'd sign the contract, they'd leave. So I remember one night, I'm actually up late playing pinball in the weight room, because we had a separate weight room for my dad. And we were there, and that's where we could raise hell, you know. So we were probably up to at least one.
Right.
It was crazy. And I remember my dad coming in and just drunk as heck with this blonde-looking guy and going, son, come here. And he makes me, we had another table. He goes, put your arm up. And I go, yes, sir. And the other guy's a little drunk, and he grabs my arm and he goes, you're in arm wrestling. And the guy, boom. And literally I thought he'd rip my shoulder. And I'm almost in tears, and I'm like, and my hands hurt like hell, and he's just laughing his ass off, and he goes, meet the Florida State arm wrestling champion. And I go, so when did we do arm wrestling? He goes, I don't know, but I see something in this kid. His name's Paul Orndorff. I'm like, oh my God. And then years later.
Yeah, you wrestled him. You had to work with him.
Right. So the other one was when Sting, which was Flash Borden,
Right.
and Hellwig come.
The Blade Runners.
So now they're out, and my dad's like, this is what we're going to do with these guys. And I remember Hellwig, because he's like, my dad's like, I'll show you the gym. So I go to open the door of the gym, and this is a really nice, this isn't just a gym. It's a sauna, it's a marbled showers. We had smoothie machines, a kitchenette, the whole thing. And Sting, of course, oh, Mr. Watts, it's really nice. Hellwig goes like this. Walks to the door sideways. I'm like, but he was so huge, and he was so big. So then getting to know Sting, that whole, the bleach hair and the makeup, I was like, man, this is the new age of wrestling, right? So Sting told me when I was at WCW, he's like, hey, Eric, listen to me, man. You're going to catch a lot of heat. Don't come to me much. We can talk off scene.
Wow.
He was even cool enough on a few trips. He goes, if you hide your car here, we'll go on these trips. We can talk, and then we'll pick up your car, but don't tell anyone you're with me. Which was really, really cool. So
he didn't want to get heat from the boys. Is that why you think he did that?
He didn't.
Right.
He
okay.
didn't. No, he didn't care.
Right.
He didn't want me to get the heat, but he also wanted to work with me, focus-wise
Gotcha.
on all the stuff, which was again unbelievable. So. Which leads to more stories like the Nasty Boys when they chained my stuff 20 feet up, and Sting was like, okay, we'll see you guys. Sting had to leave and came back 3 hours later. They had the fire department. It was just me. He's like, I really hate you right now. I'm like, great. So with that being said, he said, don't do anything, don't do anything, don't do anything. And he goes, Eric, I know you can, but don't do anything. And I'm like, okay.
Is this with the recruit situation?
This is with just people in general.
Okay.
Because, dude, let me tell you, when it came to hazing, it went way far with me. I mean, stories that I don't even know that people know. Like, many times went to put my boots on and broken glass in my boots, or razor blades, or
Jesus.
Well, whatever, which would really piss off certain guys. Like
Doc.
That's not cool. Not people even that knew me. There was the guys that is just taking it too far.
Yeah.
And there's certain ribs that are back from the 70s that go too far, and they were all being thrown on me. And so I remember Rude was sitting there, and we're at the end of a long tour, and he's sitting there just puffing a cigarette and talking, just shredded, ripped, and he's just cocky, arrogant dude. But once you get to know him, it's also what makes him beautiful,
Right.
And so he's like, and he just hated everybody and everything. And he was the best, just put it this way. Which, honestly, he was one of the best.
Yeah.
So I don't know why and what frame of mind, but I think the auditorium, I think we're in Charlotte or something. The auditorium, I remember there was dirt on the ground. It was a nice locker room, but they've been doing something in the ceilings, and there's some water dripping. And I'm sitting there, and I am just at the end of my rope. It's been like a 10-day tour. I'm burnt. I'm beat. Rightfully, I should just shut up and sit my little rookie butt and shut up. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know why this happened. And Rude's like, and Kurt Hennig, I'm a Golden Gloves boxer, so he won't let me box him. He goes, but we wrestle. And he's like, I forgot what he said, 3-time state champion wrestler. And he goes, and I can turn him. Now, this should have never come out of my mouth. And I go, well, then I guess Hennig sucks at wrestling. Man, I'm telling you, when it comes to amateur wrestling, me, my brother, Oklahoma, we got a pretty good record. Let me just put it that way. Not that I want to do anything. I'm just like, well, he must have sucked. All of a sudden, we flip the script. Who are you talking about? Your buddy, your best friend. Now, I don't know Kurt Hennig, okay? But it pissed me off that he was talking about a good amateur wrestler and that he could turn him because I think he's full of crap, And he's like, so what's it to you? And he's got his slacks on, I've got my stuff, and all I'm thinking about, come just a little closer. Because I'm sitting in a locker like this, and I'm right at your hips. We're going. We're going. And I look at Sting, and Sting's like, and he goes, well, really? He goes, so you saying my buddy's a, blah, blah, blah. I said, well, someone is. That's all I got to say. And he goes, really? I go, and I looked at Sting, and that's when Sting goes, no. I go, you know what? I lost my head. And now I am back in. You know what? I don't know why I said it. I should shut up. I don't know. But now all the guys are coming in. And I'm like, man, I just got to be quiet. I don't know what got over me. Now he's dogging me to death. But I also have been told kind of go down, just calm down. I'm hearing it. My ears are ringing. I'm so frustrated right now because I don't need this heat. And I look over and Sting goes, take care of it. And I look up and Sting goes, well, Rude, what were you talking about? Well, I mean, what? He goes, like, I can get on all fours and no one can turn me. And Sting goes, well, I bet Eric can. And now all the boys are this. And so he goes, oh yeah. I mean, puts it down like this. I said, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want freestyle? Do you want me to get on? He goes, well, what's all the different styles? I go, well, Mr. Henning must have been good. I'm just asking you, want collegiate, freestyle, Greco? How do you want it? He's like, I said, I can start at the front and turn you. He goes, oh, really? You just get wherever you want. And so I went freestyle, which he had no idea. And Sting goes, okay, I'm going to say go. And he goes, go. I just lifted him and just crack his head and shoulder right in the cement. And you can hear him go, ooh, and turn him right on his back. And I said, and now I'm wanting to do a little more. So he's like, okay. And I got to give it to Rude. He goes, he gets up, he's holding his shoulder. He goes, I wasn't ready. And I'm like, oh, this is getting better. Sting's the guy to grin. He goes, okay, you want to get down? He goes, yeah. He goes, yeah, but this time, put your arm around my belly and that amateur wrestling thing. I go, oh, the amateur wrestling thing, we'll do it. And Sting goes, now I'm going to say, ready, go. He goes, you say whatever the hell you want. He's not going to turn me. And he goes, ready, go. And I just took him, just slammed him. I just bounced his head. And found out later that it partially dislocated his shoulder.
Fuck.
So, boom, and now I'm like on him. And Sting's like, that's good. Well, that actually was a very good thing for me. It shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have done this. But what ended up happening is, all the other guys that wished that they want to think I'm a wuss or whatever. I'm a quarterback. I'm a quarterback out of college,
right.
And so what? But that Sting, basically saying, hey, roll with it. God's honest truth. So Rude gets up, moves his shoulder around, puts a cigarette in, walks out, frustrated. I walk out to get on the phone, making a call, and as I'm making a call, someone lifts me. He goes, now what would you do? And it was Rude. It was dark. I dropped the phone. I hooked his leg, turned around, smashed his face a little bit into the post. I said that. And he goes, swear to God, this is when I knew we're friends. He goes, you're good, man. You're good. And he goes, fuck this. And he pushed off. He acted like everything was good. He walked outside. It wasn't 3 minutes later, Grizzly comes up to me and goes, we got a problem. I go, what? And he goes, well, I think Rude's shoulder's bad. And I go, so what's the problem? He goes, he was so mad after he talked to you, he walked out and hit a mark. He broke the guy's cleft palate. I mean, he broke his palate, and the guy ended up suing him like $70,000.
I remember that. Wow.
That was right after that whole incident. That's how all that happened. And you know what? After that, on purpose, put it this way. Let me put it this way. After that, my dad put us on the road for like 2 or 3 weeks, and me and Rude were doing like Broadways and stuff. And
I remember, yeah.
It was awesome. But let me give you another bit of advice on this one. It was the whole Rude situation that was happening that gave my dad the idea of doing a tournament to find out who the toughest was. Dad left. Guess where they ended up doing that tournament? WWE.
Yeah, Tough Enough.
WWE with the Doc thing,
right, Doc,
and we all wanted Doc too, but
right.
Doc was passionate. In Doc's prime, he would have crushed everybody. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of people. But anyway, yeah.
I was just going to talk about Dr. Death right now.
Yeah.
Did he look out for you at all in WCW, given his relationship with your father?
Doc, no, Doc never looked out for me per se. We were like, it was kind of weird. Remember when you said you want to get in wrestling?
Yeah.
Well, when my mom got my dad to agree that we couldn't, that was the day my dad said, F it, I guess. I'm not going to get Micah and Eric in fast enough. He goes to Oklahoma, which we knew Doc from his amateur wrestling and his football, and he recruits Doc into wrestling. Doc came and lived with us a month. Doc learned how to wrestle on an amateur mat in our garage. Because the first day I remember my dad said, okay, I'm going to toss you like this, just stop at the wall. And he didn't, and Doc went into the wall. My dad said, hey, listen, you're not going to wrestle for probably another 3 or 4 months, but I'm going to deduct $500 out of your salary. He goes, for what? He goes, because you just broke my wall. He goes, you threw me into it. He goes, you should be a better athlete. So Doc went there. So at WCW, no, because I think it's that amateur code, the amateur wrestling code, like you can take care of this, you can take care of this. Where Doc took care of me,
Japan.
When Terry Gordy got sent home, and they called me in, and I'm there, and it's the funeral for Baba. It's Stan Hansen's supposed last go, and I'm there with Doc, and I'm his partner. Now I wasn't his partner the whole time, but for the big things, and I burst my burster sack in my knee. I remember, and he said, "I don't care. You're still going to have to do that reverse drop kick off the top." I said, "Doc, if I do it, I won't move." And I remember he goes, you got to do this, you got to do this. I did it, and I remember him screaming at me, crawl, crawl, and literally just in tears, trying to get to him. But he looked after me. This is who you need to hang out with. This is who you don't hang out with. One of the scariest times in Japan, there weren't many. One of the scariest times he goes, they want to go out with you tonight. I go, who? They go, well, Cowboy Bill Watts' son's here, and they want to take Doc and Cowboy's sons out. I go, who? He goes, you'll see. And I mean, boom, boom, boom. 3 Mercedes, I think they're 500s, guys with machine guns, into the car. Had a killer night. Killer night.
Yakuza, right?
Yeah, it was a killer night. But I got to say, I'm like, Doc, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, it's mafia here, bro. And he goes, we could get killed at any time, but we're going to have fun doing it. I'm like,
You worked Kensuke Sasaki over there?
Yes, but prior to working him over there, we worked here because
got the STF from.
Yeah.
Talk about your dad's exit from WCW and how did that affect you?
Yeah, well, that was crazy. It was his exit, him leaving. My dad is a hothead, right?
Correct.
And so it's going to be his way or the highway. And so he goes in, and they're losing just all kinds of money. He takes them to even in like a year, which was just unheard of. Ted Turner and him knew each other very well. And so Ted's the one who brought him in. So the biggest problem I had was here I am, and one of my first visits, Hank Aaron comes and hangs out, and I hang out with Hank Aaron and my dad. And Hank Aaron is talking to my dad about how much he appreciates everything he's done for color. First world champion, Junkyard Dog. Next one, Ron Simmons. My dad desegregated seating in Louisiana. I mean, we can just go on. I mean, his best friend, Muhammad Ali,
yeah.
Ernie the Cat Ladd. All the stuff he did. Having a best friend like Ernie the Cat Ladd opened his eyes, and not opened his eyes, but saw what was going on. My dad had a lot of power to do a lot of things. Still does. So now I'm sitting here with the Hank Aaron, and I'm like, hey, you know what? This is great. This is great. When my dad left, he left over a lot of stuff that was being said, Hank Aaron said. And it was over an interview that my dad did.
Wade Keller.
Yeah, like it was long before that. And it was basically, he goes, I don't care who you are, you should have the right, if you own your own company, to hire whoever you want and employ whoever you want. Which, in a strange thing, I guess, I mean, you should be able to do what you want, but how is a Hank Aaron that is putting this guy over all of a sudden wants to twist that story? So that kind of sucked. My dad's departure. My dad's his own man. So where he goes and doesn't go is fine with me. And I was excited. No, I mean, I would love for him to be here because he's wrestling and I love wrestling. But when he was gone, and I swear to goodness, I remember. Ole Anderson bring me in. Son, your dad's gone, but I know who you are. I'm like, yes. And I sat at home for a while. I'm like, okay. And then Bischoff blew my mind. I think we were in Macon, around Macon, and he brings everybody in. He goes, hey, you know what? I've been named vice president, da-da-da, and I just want to let you know, this is what I expect, not expect. And he goes, and let me say something to you. He goes, I want to say something about one person here. there's one person that outworks everybody. He goes to the power plant. He does this. He does this. I know I go a lot, and he goes, Eric Watts. He goes, let me tell you what, rising star. You guys need to watch that guy. And I'm like, all right. And Dallas is like, wow, man, Bischoff really loved you to death. Shit, I was gone within a month. I was like, rising star somewhere else.
Well, before you left, you got to work a little bit with Brian Pillman, I believe it was Super Bowl III. Memories of working a little bit with Brian?
Well, I can't specifically tell you about that, but Brian, there's a few things about Brian, and it wasn't necessarily in wrestling. Brian was always taking books about vocabulary. So he's always trying to grow his vocabulary all the time, which I enjoyed because, he's like, oh, I almost got your master's. And so we were always going brain games. Tax codes and deductions and certain things like that. We were always talking tax codes and stuff. Brian was one of the greatest athletes I've ever been around. And when you go back to Cincinnati Bengals, this guy, his size, he should have never been on a team, much less what he did. Where me and Brian would start laughing is Brian would love to do this arm drag, and he would jump just high as heck to do it. And there was young kids that sometimes they would go to do the arm drag and they'd hit his hips and they'd fall. Well, with me, he kept on going, jump higher, jump higher, jump higher, jump higher. We started getting that camaraderie. And Brian was one of the really smart guys. So he was another one that knew that I had tremendous heat and it would only be worse if he tried to take it off me. He just did it in a different way. He would challenge me in the ring to get better, to take the heat off of me, which was really awesome. And it crushed me to hear that when he passed. I mean, it killed me. But so all my memories of Brian were how he was always trying to push me mentally, physically, all the time.
Ric Flair, memories of Rick. He came back to the company when you were leaving.
Yeah. Rick's an odd situation because being a legend, and I know how much respect him and my dad have, and the Harley races and the legends. Ric Flair, personally, he's just the opposite of Dusty and all the other person. Like, Dusty, come here, let's talk. You and Dustin, let's talk. Rick would look at me and like, F off. But if I came and talked to him, hey kid, how you doing? So he's always in his character. That's cool.
What happened with you and Lex Luger? I heard there was an incident maybe with you and Lex.
There was that's a kind of a long story. The Lex Luger, I could not stand Lex Luger. And so there was an incident in which I had heard that Pez Whatley got fired from a show because he went and took a dump in a dressing room after hours because he was the ring crew. That Liz and Lex came back. Lex found out. It's like, oh my God, it stinks, which who cares? It's 2 hours after the show. And he called up and had Pez Whatley fired. Now, if you go back, Pez Whatley used to work for my dad and the hardest working guy in the business. Yep. And now you've got a vet that is needing money that's putting up rings and stuff like that. Come to find out, 10 years later, that story never happened, I guess. I don't know how he got fired, who, or whatever. But I hated Lex anyway. Lex was pretentious, arrogant, just piece of shit. He just was. That's how he was. My wife worked at Main Event Fitness. Lex owned it. Sting owned it. Loved Sting. Couldn't stand Lex. I'd go work out with Bagwell. Bagwell would sometimes work out with Lex, and I pushed myself through it twice, and I was like, I can't do it. So when the Pez story happened, I was leaving WCW. Now, I couldn't take it, and I made a call to DDP. Asked him if he'd make a call to Eric Bischoff and see if it was okay if I beat Lex's brains out. Which is an odd thing to do. Because why would I call? I just wanted to make sure that I was left on good terms. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone will confirm all the story or not. But basically, I got a call back saying, "Here's the deal. Make sure it doesn't happen in the arena." And I'm like, "Perfect. Doesn't need to happen in the arena." So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for him to show up so I can beat his brains out in the parking lot. Well, he runs late. I gotta go get my finish. I gotta go do my job. It's my last night at WCW.
And you worked Hunter.
I worked Hunter. And so I'm like, okay, no big deal. I'll just beat his brains out afterwards. But I'm with other people, and we got a plane to catch, and we got to go. So this night, he's hanging out, and him and Liz and whatever forever. I'm like, God, I got to kill this guy soon, right? Never happens. So I'm like, I was so frustrated because I was so excited about it. Well, years later happen, and stuff happens in people's lives. And I told the story on the way over here, right? So here's the story. To tell you how bad I hated Lex. Okay, if God had talked to me and said, "Hey, Eric, I'm bringing you up to heaven. I'm going to give you 10 people, though, if you want. You've been so good, can't come to heaven." Which God hopefully would never say that. But if He gave me that chance, I was willing to use all 10 people on Lex.
Wow.
Yeah, Hitler, come on, Lex out. Okay, realistically, I mean, I just loathe the guy. The crazy thing about life is that I end up at extended stay, going through a divorce. And the reason why is because my wife's lawyers were really good and froze my damn credit cards. So I went to extended stay where I could pay some cash. It just so happened that Lex Luger was an extended stay. And so I come in and they go, "Oh my gosh, Eric Watts, all the wrestlers are here." I'm like, "What do you mean all the wrestlers are here?" And they're like, "Lex Luger's here." I go, "Lex Luger's here?" "Yeah." I go, "Where's he?" "One of the 3 suites. Would you like one?" I go, "Yeah, right by his, under his." I can. No. So we go in passing. I don't really see him. Major stuff happens to him while he's at that extended stay, and that changes his life, and he becomes saved. Ramp forward. Now he is staying with the chaplain of Cherokee County Jail later on. And that guy also is a preacher at a church, an apartment complex. Really nice, gated, 24-hour, beautiful gym. I end up moving in there. Lex is in it. But now Lex is a completely new person. Me and Lex are hanging out. We're talking. We're seeing him. My kids, I mean, all of a sudden, our relationship matures to the point where it's just unbelievable. I mean, the Lex Luger today, is just, I can't explain to you. That guy gets a promotion, and the church buys that guy a house to stay in. Lex has nowhere to go, necessarily, because he has some felonies, so he couldn't stay in A properties. He loved that place. And he called me, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "you got a 2-bedroom, and you stay by yourself over there. Would you be interested in a roommate?" I'm like, "Lex, you are one of the greatest guys I know. Clean, the whole thing. Your hips are hurting, the whole thing. But, dude, I still, I'm a country boy. I still drink occasionally and all that. I don't want to make you stumble." He goes, "You can't." I go, "No, literally, I don't want to. You can't." 2 days later, Lex is staying with me, right?
Unbelievable.
And so that's kind of how crazy life is. Matter of fact, when Lex fell paralyzed, he was living with me. And one of the things he told me, I remember that every time he would go out of town, in his room, he would say, "Eric, I'm going out of town." He put a computer desk in the living room, and he'd take a Post-it, and he'd put it on there, and he goes, "Call me if the hips come through." Because what we were waiting on, the surgeons were going to do it, the hip people were going to all give it, but the hospital said, "We're not going to donate it. We can't donate a room, because if we do and he dies, we're going to get sued." And so Lex goes, "Nope, someone's going to do it." I mean, "Okay, Lex, whatever you say." I mean, just Mr. Positive. And so I remember he went that day and crushed shoulders. And at this time, his hips are so bad, but he doesn't want to take pain pills or anything. He's on those walkers. Going to the gym, just chiseled, but walkers, right? I said, "Okay." And he goes out to do that autograph session, and I get a call. "We've got it taken care of. Everything's done. Lex's hips, as soon as he gets back, we'll have surgery." I call Lex. DDP answers the phone. I'm like, "Oh my God, tell Lex, we got the hips. We got the hips and everything." He goes, "What are you talking about, you son of a..." I'm getting dog cussed. I'm like, "Hello?" And I hear this squawking going on. He goes, "Shut up." Boom. And I get hung up on. And I'm like, "What just happened?" About an hour later, I get a call. And Paige is like, what's going on?" I go, "His hips." He goes, "Bro, do you not understand? He's paralyzed." I was standing over paralyzed, answered the phone, and it's you. And I'm like, what do you mean he's paralyzed? So I call the next day, next day when I got, I think it was at Stanford Medical. I call him, I'm like, hey Lex, man, what's going on? And you can tell he's like breathing on a respirator. Man, you know what room I got? I go, what? And he goes, 316. At first I'm like, 316? He goes, John, 316? It's the only room they had for me. Perfect room. I'm thinking, hold on, perfect room. You're paralyzed, bro. And he goes, hey, I heard they called to give the good news, man, so they're going to do my hips. I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking maybe the docs put some good stuff in these IVs. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, literally, I don't know what to say. So a few weeks go by, 3-4 weeks go by, a lot has to happen. I mean, private jets need to be found because commercial wasn't going to work, paralyzed. Stanford Medical didn't know exactly what to do. Everyone was saying Shepherd. Shepherd's got like a 6-month wait. So there had to be strings pulled and all this. Getting back to Shepherd, I remember leaving my apartment to go see him. And I'm driving down, man, and I'm kind of like breaking up a little bit, crying. And I'm like, why am I crying? He's paralyzed, but still was like, gosh, I can't believe it. So I go in, I said, Lawrence Full, please. And they go, oh, okay. I said, what's his room number? 316. I'm like, okay. So I go up, and it hit me when the door was open. It hit me, and I'm looking in there, and there's 4 people in one room. And at first I was like, hold on. Why are there? The nurse is like, well, they can't move. It's not they need a lot of room. And I'm looking, and he's got the tube in trying to change the channels. And I go, hey Lex, he goes, 316. I'm like, 316. And I sat there, and I remember the wind coming out of me. And I'm like, man, I can't lose it here. I gotta be strong, but I was gonna lose it. I could tell I was gonna lose it. I'm like, hey buddy, I'm getting closer to him, and he's got all the stuff, and he's just he's paralyzed. And he says, what's going on? I go, nothing, man. He goes, I heard you got the hips. I go, yeah, we got the hips for you. He goes, come here. I go, yeah. He goes, pull my gown up. I'm like, what? He goes, pull my gown up. I go, and my head's thinking is it one of those paralysis things? You itch, but you can't itch because you're paralyzed, or what's going on? But at this point, I don't know what to say. I come up to him and I kind of pull it, and he goes, higher. I'm like, okay, this isn't so funny. And so I pull it up, and he goes, only quadriplegic with abs, baby. And I was like, he's just ripped. And I'm like, how are you making a joke like that right now? I'm busting out laughing. Now, not a tear even coming close, and just sitting there saying one of the most incredible human beings ever. And then he goes to tell his stories like, you know what, I'm young into this relationship learning. Satan thinks he's going to take me down. It's a win-win. If I stay down, shame on him. If I get up, shame on him. And then he starts telling all these stories. Believe it or not, though, even before I left, because I'd go do some of the classes with him, try to get him moving and stuff like that. Even before I left that day, he said, Eric, I'm being serious. I need you to go ahead and schedule that surgery as soon as possible. Talk to my docs. And I walked out of there going, okay, these docs are they're going to look at me and say, maybe you need to be in here. I went to the doctor, and he goes, okay. I go, what did you say okay? He goes, Lex is just different. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, Lex has already said he's going to walk out of here. And so I went back to Lex and said, hey, we got it. He goes, Eric, the reason why I'm asking to do this right now is, A, I'm going to walk. I'm going to walk again. He goes, but here's the deal. You know where I was at. You know where I am. He goes, with me paralyzed, there's no pain medication or anything that needs to be in my body. They can cut me open, do whatever they want, no pain meds. He said, this is a gift from God, dude. They put in the hips, and he grew 3 inches. 3 inches, bro. That's how compressed his back and hips and everything really was. And I think it was 6 or 7 months later when he came to my apartment driving his own car, and got out and walked out of his car. And his hands and all that necessarily weren't the same, but that's the Lex. And then me and my daughter and my son would go see him and hang out. Now, he's digressing from what I heard a little bit, some of it, but even all his blood work and everything's incredible. And there's nothing, you can't give that guy anything but a smile. So every time I call him, hey, what can I do for you? Nothing, bro. Just say hello. So.
Yeah, we did an interview with. He actually did an interview with Lex, and it was amazing.
Is it not the craziest thing ever?
It was inspiring.
It's the most incredible thing ever.
Yes.
Yeah.
You left the company, WCW, going back to WCW when you left your final match with Triple H Hunter. Did you feel that the early push prevented you from being seen fairly as a talent later in your career? Because you entered WWE, it was like 1995.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if the push. I didn't really judge that when I went to WWE. Vince, I remember the tryout. I was going to go. I called and said I want to try out, and they said no problem, Augusta, Georgia. And then I was like, okay. And then one of my friends, the tight end from the University of Louisville, Chad Fortune, was in the training camp there, and had been there for a year and a half, 2 years. And he kept on being told that he was going to get his start. And the best of my recollection, I remember one of the Orlando trips he went down, and he actually wrestled Goldberg and beat Bill Goldberg. And had they aired that tape, they would have Bill Goldberg would have never been able to do the undefeated streak. So again, freak timing, right?
It's crazy.
So they canned Fortune. Well, Chad called me up because he was mad because he was that night. They were supposed to give him a new outfit and all that, and he was sitting kind of on the side, and Flair came up to him out of all things and said, "Hey, all the marks and fans need to get out." And Chad's like, "No, I'm like one of the wrestlers." He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were a mark." But to me, what Fortune didn't understand, I mean, Flair might have said that anyway, right? So I remember calling WWE and saying, "I know I got a tryout, but I want to bring someone else." And they go, "Oh, don't do that." And I go, "Why?" And they go, "You're gonna be judged as one. You both make it or none of you make it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, we'll both make it then." And Chad he had a year and a half in the school, but not really any other experience. And so that's when I got his contract and found a loophole in the train contracts, and sent him to WWE and said, "You're right, he's out of this contract," which was good for him and screwed everyone after him, because that's when Bischoff got mad, because he found out that he went and he thought he was going to have retaliation against WWE from what I heard, and didn't. So then he ironcladded all those contracts. But when we did the tryout, Horowitz and Brawler, right? I didn't know Vince well. I mean, I'd seen Vince come to my dad's federation like once in a blue moon to do some announcing. He was a young person and all this other stuff, but I didn't know him. And when I came back, he said, "I got a contract for you. I want you to sign now. You guys are going to be big. I want you to sign this now." And the Vince that I had heard of and known, that wouldn't have been his personality. It would have been, "Hey." And so then I went old school, like my dad said. I said, "Wow, great opportunity." I said, "Look, you know what? I appreciate it. I got to get back to Atlanta. I'll have my lawyers look at it tomorrow, and we'll call you." And then I walked out, and Chad was like, "Did you really say that?" I go, "Did I? I don't know." And we were talking all the way home. So I signed and said, "Let me just say this. 100% I believe that Vince was ready for us to do huge things. I mean, from the outfits, which were strange to me, but whatever. Techno Team 2000, I don't know why with my accent. I always made fun of it. I was like, what were we supposed to do? I'm Troy Techno, y'all, 2000, Right. So I didn't get that. But man, did he put everything in the outfits and the whole thing. I think what hurt was we took off. Chad, out of nowhere, had 2 matches that Vince was at, both of them, and I mean rookie stupid things. Like went to hit the ropes and fell through them once, right at the beginning of a match, and did something else just really stupid. That put some question, but then you know what? I thought, okay, that was Boston Garden, Madison Square Garden. I'm like, oh, okay, we're in trouble. But then he pushed us hard. Right at that time, I remember he had a shareholder meeting. It was about the fact that the government was on him for 103 counts. He said, F those counts. They said that if I take a plea deal for 3, that I'm good. And I looked at him and said, if you had a good case, you'd have me. F your counts. And he goes, but everything's on sale. The WWE Tower, everything. So guys, it's on sale, but we're good. I remember that. And then I remember as Gorilla Monsoon, Pat Patterson came up and to the Guns, said, give us your tickets. Took the Europe tickets out of their hands, gave it to us. Took our Canada tickets and gave them to them and said, we've had a change. And then I was told that night that we were going to go do the tours and the Guns were going to drop the belts to us Monday night. So I felt like that was going to, no, I shouldn't have felt it, but I felt there was a problem there. I didn't know what the problem was, but there was a problem. Put it this way, by the time we woke up in the morning, we switched tickets back, and there was a lot of people upset about it, about who are these guys. And I can understand it. Your Canada payoff compared to a Europe payoff, dropping the belt's one thing.
Right.
But a 10-day sold out to a 7-day nothing, which I think the last day we even shut short, and you always get screwed on your on the money exchange from Canada, always. Right. So that was a big deal. That happened, and then I came back, we were wrestling, Shawn Michaels pulled me aside with Kevin and said, hey Eric, you got your dad's number, which I said a stupid joke. I go, did you just ask me if I got my dad's number? like, is that an odd thing to, yes, I do. It's my dad. So I gave him the number. He goes, no, have your dad call me. Let me give you my number. I'm like, why? And he goes, we need him up here. I go, okay. Which I didn't, that was odd, because now if I know that you know that we know and all that stuff. Called my dad, said, hey, Shawn wants you to talk to him. Shortly after that conversation with Shawn and Kevin, my dad came up and I was shipped to Memphis.
I was going to ask you. That was part of that's what I heard.
Could you ask my dad next time you do an interview with him? Because I think he screwed me. No, just kidding.
No, I was going to ask you. Is it true that your dad kind of killed your push and sent you down to Memphis?
Did we have this conversation already? I've never asked my dad that.
Why not? And why do you think your dad would do it if he did do it?
Well, different things happen at different times. There were things that happened when my dad and mom got divorced, of course, and me and my dad tight as can be, me and my mom tight as can be. Her getting the library was an issue. Me trying to help her sell the library has been an issue before. And I don't know. So I'd heard that that Memphis thing happened, and then I was there in Memphis, and then my dad did his deal, and people were happy for a while, and then the same guys that brought him in were mad that he was leaving the baby faces laying too much. From what I heard, my dad said, I don't care, I really don't care, and they're gonna lay and get over it. Then he was gone. Once my dad left, they fired Chad, which I'll tell you, Vince is aces, because I called him up and said, you took this kid, he's screwed back at WCW, what are we going to do? And he goes, well, what
You at Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
And you had a good relationship with him?
Vince, I'm telling you what, I don't care what anyone says or doesn't say, everyone's got a different opinion. He always treated me business to business. A matter of fact, I don't know this to be true, but when I started there, right, I said, man, we signed these contracts, and 3 guaranteed days, $150 a day, all this stuff. I said, what if I'm not happy here? I don't want to be a guy sitting on the shelf or whatever. And he said, if you're ever not happy here, you just call me and I'll let you out of your contract. Now, I told maybe about 6 people that, and they laughed so hard I thought they died. They're like, let you out of your contract? No way, you're not going to do it. I got to say this, they let Chad go. I called and I said, hey guys, not directly to Vince, to whoever called, I can't remember who called, Pritchard or something like that, say he's gone. I said, no, here's the deal, man. Don't do that to him. They go, what do you do? I said, give him at least 3 to 6 months pay. Fire him, but 3. They actually did that. They did that, which was aces to me. I sat around. They were going to remake me. And I called up and I said, I need to talk to Vince. And they go, about what? I go, I'm unhappy. Vince called me back and he goes, what's all going on? I said, sir, I don't know how long you're going to take to repackage me, because Eric got great ideas. We've been working on them. It's going to take you a little bit, but we're going to get you going. I said, I'm not doing anything. I'm really not doing anything. I said, do you understand? I need every day I can in the ring. I need every day. And And he said, I understand. I said, I want to be released. He goes, I hate to hear that. I said, I do. And he goes, I promised you that you want out, that you get out. He goes, but here's the deal. I'm going to send you your release. I'm also going to send you another contract. I think you'll be very happy with that other contract. I said, okay, thank you. He sent it. I was really happy with that new contract. I mean, that contract was really, really, really good, but I wanted it to go. And so I sent the release and sent the contract back. Never was mad, never indifferent. I mean, the same thing is, I don't know if I would, I don't know per se if I would ever have an opportunity as color commentary or a manager on the mic or whatever at WWE, but I was also told, this was 5 years ago, that my dad didn't want me in the business anymore because of my injuries, and he's afraid that if I got around it, I would wrestle more and hurt myself more because I still, I ruptured my esophagus and all this other stuff. So, and those are things, the way I look at it is, my dad is awesome. He's my dad. What am I going to ask him? And what's it going to say? And what's it going to change anything? So I've left those alone.
You left WWF, you went down to Memphis for a little bit, and then you ended up back in WCW, I believe, in '98.
Yep.
Did DDP get you in there?
DDP did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How important would a place DDP would? Let me rephrase this. How important was DDP towards your career at that point?
DDP was okay. If I wouldn't have gone back to WCW, I think I could have gone several other routes. Japan and other places. So I think I had opportunity. Dallas was very. If Dallas thought that you had talent, Dallas fought for you. And you can name all the people that he fought for. All of them. There's a list of them.
Yeah.
The whole gathering. And I would say out of the whole gathering, there's only a few of them maybe that weren't as good, in the whole thing, in the big picture, but who has called every good athlete? All the way to Lodi. I loved Lodi when he was wrestling, right? But so he pulled for you. I called him up and I said, hey, I want to come back to WCW. And he goes, man, that's fantastic. And I said, well, I want to meet Bischoff. And he goes, you're not going to have to. And I was like, well, I'd still like to. He goes, no, I guarantee you they're going to want you back. So the contract was sent, and I signed it, and I was back. And once I got back, though, it wasn't. You could tell there were some problems when I got back there.
What were some of the problems?
Well, first of all, I think that they were going to make me prove myself, which I had no problem proving myself. But it was the whole, hey, we're going to put you on the Saturday night show. What they didn't understand, I didn't care. Okay. Then I changed my outfit. And so I had gone to big jeans, tight shirts, glasses, wanted to be a bad guy. They had me coming out as a bad guy, which was fine. They took several guys, had me job out to several guys, which again, going back and watching, I really didn't care because I had so much fun being a heel. Then all of a sudden, Bischoff acknowledged, man, this guy is, he's the deal. And so then I did like a Thursday show, another Thursday show, brought me up to do a Monday show, and put me against Bam Bam Bigelow. Now, Bam Bam and I always had a great relationship. So in there, Bam Bam said, hey, I want to do that thing where you powerbomb me. This move I was doing, powerbomb move, and I said, no problem. Well, when he did, he's big, but he slipped, and he didn't jump much, and I told him you're going to have to jump, and so he landed kind of awkward, and he lost his crap. He thought that I had done it on purpose, whatever. And so he's like, oh man, I was going to help you out, buck this, blah, 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 blah. Cut the match like 3 minutes short, buried me. And then didn't say anything else. So I always thought, okay, was that a set gig? Like, did he put it was this made up? Like, did he put me in that position? So, but I mean, like it was a rocket ship before that. Bam, 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 bam. I'm on the way. Dallas is happy. Everyone's happy. Next thing I know, I get a call from Dallas going, dude, they're very happy with you. They just don't like your outfit. And I basically said, I don't give a shit. I don't care if they like my outfit. You know?
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. I did my own show in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm trying to remember the year. And I'd called my pull in WWE and WCW. And I had Doc and Gordy and Luna came down. Sherry was on the show. It was a great show, Tulsa. My first indie show
Right.
of my own. We did about $42,000, 42 grand.
Yeah, that's good.
Sold out. Dad came to the show and said he would make it. No, he'd come watch the show, but he wouldn't say anything on the mic. Whatever. I was supposed to wrestle One Man Gang. I had Skandar Akbar. I mean, we had the whole thing. Great show. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Man, I need to remember his name. WWE, bald, beard, had a lot of the earrings. Oh my gosh.
Prince Albert?
Prince Albert. One of the nicest guys in the world. He came up to me and he goes, "You guys get over here." And these two kids came up to me and he goes, "Well, ask them, because I think it's bullshit." And I don't know who these two kids are. I don't know. But I remember WWE saying, "Hey, we got these two kids. We kind of we think they're going to be hot. You know, can we send them in the show too? You know, after I'm getting all these other big names." I was
What year is this?
I got to go back and look at the year. But he goes, "Well, ask them." And Gay goes, "We love your outfit." And I go, "Well, thank you, because I was told it was the shits." And they're like, "Would you mind if we wore something like that?" I said, "You're a WWE, right?" They go, "Yeah." I go, "Please." And that was a shot. Like, I didn't know who the kids were. I didn't know what was going to happen. But I thought, you know what? If someone else could wear this.
I know who it is already. Matt and Jeff?
Matt and Jeff Hardy.
It's crazy.
Right, yeah. And that was one of Dallas's digs. Dallas goes, "Oh, so you hate his outfit?" Like a year later. So
There's so much to talk to you about, and I got to wrap it up in
Yep,
about 15
wrap it.
minutes. So I don't want to honestly, I'm definitely going to do a part 2 because we didn't even talk about Eddie Gilbert, we didn't talk about Gang, we didn't talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a follow-up when you talked about your career post the leaving the WWE when you got those 2 contracts. Everything that happened to you after that, going back to WCW and your run there, did you have regrets? Did you ever look back at that contract and think maybe you should have signed that WWE contract and gave it one more chance?
had I stayed at WWE and had the answer is yeah. Not until you ask that though. Not until you ask it, because I'm not one of those people. I've never done this. This is my mom in me or whatever. You have no regrets. You just got to go. You got one life, the whole thing. But I will say this. I helped a friend that was in need to come try out with me. Then he became a quasi-anchor because I was having to do special moves and all that to cover his greenness. So once my dad had gone, he had gone, had I stayed around and true just Eric Watts and Vince and Gorilla and all the powers that be, had they sat down and said, and judged me, I would have probably known then that I'd made it or not made it. And so, yeah, I would have rather known from independent hands now that you say something. Because going back to WCW, where I thought and I felt that I was wanted and good enough, I did call Dallas. You'd call anyone. Hey, would you talk to Bischoff for me, or or would you get me a meeting? I did. So, but that's what made ECW special. Very short period. But that's what made TNA very special. There wasn't anyone, nobody. It was all me. You know.
Because it seemed like Vince gave you a respect that perhaps a lot of other promoters didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
to even put that clause in your contract in the relationship that you
Yeah.
had with him, it seems to me that giving you the opportunity to stay or go, that
True. But now let's put this reflect though. Let's put this reflect. You're right, and I think Vince is that. I think that Vince is that. I think he has that much honor and respect as far as the business from where his dad was at and my dad. Because remember, my dad was selling out Madison Square Garden for his dad. My dad was pulling him down as announcer. So he knew that connection, he knew that tie, and I think that he's got respect. I even remember hearing through the grapevine that my dad and Vince, the day my dad left, that they got in an argument. The baby faces were tired of being laid. It was like a Sean or someone said, Vince, I don't mind if he writes all the show, just not what we do at the end of it. And I don't know whether it was Shawn Michaels or whoever. You might have heard it.
Yeah, I remember this whole story, but I don't remember the exact details.
I don't remember exact details, but from what I understand, my dad goes, well, I don't give an F. I'm either writing it or I'm not. And then Vince goes, but you got to understand something. It's my company. He goes, no, you're right. It is your company. So you should do the right thing. But if I'm your booker, I'm writing it. And Vince is basically, you're putting me in a rock and hard spot. He goes, no, I'm not. Fire me. Basically, I'm gone. And I don't think that was an FU to Vince. I think that was, this is the way I do things. I'm the booker. I'm this. And Vince was like, well, that's cool, but not here necessarily. I mean, I want you, but don't put me in a corner. And I think my dad was at that time, I don't need to. But what I was saying is that all goes back. But if, and it's probably something I need to bring up sometime, if my father at any time really was trying to help me out, like injury-wise or whatever-wise, not to be in the business anymore, then if that was his plan, then he has that hand the whole time. So would I have actually been given a fair shake? Right.
Out of all your runs, which were you most satisfied with?
All my runs, it's very simple. TNA and Georgia Championship Wrestling.
For Georgia?
Jerry Oates.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really wish that there's a lady, Diane, she's still alive. Her husband's dead. But there's a guy that kept all the videotapes he did of that place. And he's not around the wrestling business anymore. I'd love to get the name of it. I'm telling you, man, there were some shows there. I can't explain it to you. It would be the Redneck ECW.
Right,
I mean,
right.
literally, it was the same building every week, and I think only like 700 people could fit, and there was 700 people every time we went. And there was an entrance, and when I say just the most electric, crazy, awesome stuff ever, no alcohol was allowed, which they would have crushed it if there was alcohol allowed. But I'm telling you, just sold out. And some of the greatest matches from people, you wouldn't expect. But, Dusty was coming by, and Bullet Bob was coming by, and Abdullah the Butcher was coming by, and there's Jerry. But you had the David Youngs and the Elix Skippers and the Kevin Northcutts. And so you had these guys that would, Beach, I can't remember what Beach's name. But it was unbelievable. And then they ended up having me do some of the booking over there. And at the time, between Jerry's old school and me, there were some angles and stuff that came out of that place that was awesome. I wish we had the footage, man. There was some stuff you'd love.
Why'd you stop working for Paul? What happened there? Did you stop booking you? Or?
No. The Paulie thing. Yeah, no. The Paulie thing was kind of at first. Ted DiBiase was doing
right.
WXO.
Oh yeah. Florida.
Right. And so that was part of it, and another part of it was just the other part was Paulie always treated me very well, and when I was on the road, and that's how I got to know Sonny and all those people, when I was on the road, I was never privy to the oops, I didn't send you a check. I was never privy to that.
Yeah, you were gone before that.
Well. But I started hearing about some of the boys. But then I heard some of the guys, some of the top guys sometimes, oh no, and they'd send them money and all this other stuff. Right there towards the end, I was like, dude, decide who I'm working. Just let's roll with it. Well, okay, well, okay. But I'm still going to send you some money. Yeah, but we got to go. I got to keep on working. There's too many people I want to. Mike Awesome. You know, I mean, there's so much talent there. Sandmans and all these. I would love. One of my favorite matches to this day, which is going to sound so stupid to you, is TNA.
Right. Okay.
Sandman, Raven, me, Red Shirt Security, Kevin North, Legend. There. I mean, how we could take those 6 people and have a match and exactly Sandman, Raven, us we're talking about. Okay, baby's up, heels up, baby's down in a weird Clockwork Orange House of Fun match where the guy that set it up zip tied everything to the chains and we couldn't get him off. But to have that, I'm not saying the greatest match in the world, but to have that good of match on TV with some people that had no chemistry together, where Raven and Sandman, they can work every night of the week because they've worked with each other 1,000 times. I didn't get that, and it was making me mad because I'm sitting there at home watching ECW, going crazy. I'm going, look at this incredible person. Balls Mahoney to all of them that were fantastic, and I was getting edgy. So then I did a show, and the check didn't come one time. I was like, hey, bro, your check didn't come. And then there was a girl, oh, no, it's going to come.
Debbie.
Yeah, it's going to come. I said, okay, it's going to come. And I said, fine. She goes, well, Eric, you're on the next show. I said, yeah, but I want to be working it. Because they flew me to some shows and paid me, and I never worked.
Right.
I said, okay. I said, well, I'm not good with this. You need to overnight it. Okay, it'll overnight. Went to the mailbox. It wasn't there. It wasn't about the money. It's the principle. So she goes, okay, well, he'll pay you at the pay-per-view. I said, fantastic. I said, here's the deal. You're gonna send me the flight. She goes, yes, I will. I said, send me the check with the
itinerary,
the flight. She goes, well, Eric, he'd rather just pay you. I said, no, I'm sure he would. Send me the check with the flight. I got the check. I got the ticket. I went and cashed the ticket, kept the check, and didn't go.
I hear you.
I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I don't play that game.
Right.
But again, it's not that. Love Paulie, love the thing. Just everything was eating at me, and I did not want to get that deep in. Plus there was, and this isn't, well, if it's a shot at Paulie, hopefully he's not mad. There are guys that lived in their cars like every federation. But that was one of the most unbelievably tough federations ever. And those guys would have done anything on any given day to tear the house down, putting up the ring. Dreamer. How many times have I seen him doing the shirts and doing the this and doing the that? That was one of the coolest cult fiction type things I've ever seen.
100%.
And then to see guys hear about them not getting paid and stuff, whether it's Paulie or whoever else, no. And you know what? Sometimes desperate times takes desperate measures. So maybe he's just trying to do his best to keep it afloat.
100%. He's trying to catch up. Well, look, I could sit here for another 3 hours. 100%. This was an incredible interview. We are definitely doing a part 2 because there's I could play the name game here all night with you.
Yeah,
we didn't
man.
even get into that. So I want to thank you for being here tonight. It was a great interview.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.